So we hear people talk about authenticity all of the time. And really, what does that actually mean, right? So my way I talk about it is I talk about it as being fully expressed. So I'll use those words kind of interchangeably. But let's talk about what it is. So my name is Crystal Hoban. I am an identity coach and I help people stop abandoning themselves in life and in love. And I teach people how to be fully expressed in who they are and authentic in who they are and come back to their true and most authentic selves. When I talk about feeling being fully expressed, I want to acknowledge that it is kind of being authentic. It's being able to show up exactly as you are on every given day, on every given moment, in any given second. And it's about letting yourself be fully who you are without worry of how you're going to be perceived or how people are going to view you. And if if you're watching this, you probably know how hard it is to show up in that space without worries about being perceived or being seen a certain way. Many of us, are socialized from a really young age to not do that really, not be able to show up exactly as we are because we're afraid of how people will view us. We're afraid that people won't like us, right? And if people don't like us, then that means it would lead to rejection. And so, as humans, we will do anything to avoid rejection or any type of pain. And that's just kind of the natural being of being a human. And so I feel like I want to start with what it is not. So being fully expressed and authentic is not being aggressive. I think that there is this belief that if I'm fully expressed and I'm fully myself, then that means that I can kind of be aggressive or say things that are brutally honest, which is how people will put it, but really they're mean, right? And that's not what being fully expressed and authentic is, not from my point of view. When you're aggressive or you're acting out an aggression towards somebody, that's usually an indicator that you have stayed silent for so long, or you have suppressed your feelings and thoughts and emotions for so long that you are ready to pop off, right? And so maybe you've experienced this where you have not said anything about a comment that was made, or you didn't talk about how you felt about something, and it happened over and over and over and over again. And then eventually you just kind of lose it on that person, right? Or you get really frustrated and angry and you just kind of pop off. And I want to acknowledge that that's not being fully expressed and authentic. That is you suppressing. And actually, being fully expressed and authentic is the opposite of that. It's the ability to say things when they come up and talk about things as they are happening. So, I used to be a marriage and family therapist, and a lot of this comes down to you being able to communicate clearly, honestly, and openly as things are occurring, rather than holding tight onto all these things and then losing it when you finally get to the point where you've had enough, right? That is not being fully expressed. It's learning how to find safety within who you are and safety within what you feel, and learning how to communicate as things come up. Because when we deal with things as they're coming up and as they're rising, right? We don't have that overload and that burst. It doesn't happen. And so it's about truly being able to recognize when you're feeling a certain way, or when you need to have a certain conversation, or maybe you need to set a certain boundary. And knowing that it's time to do that and showing up and doing that, regardless of how the other person is going to perceive you or how you think you're going to be received in that moment. And so this comes with a nervous system component where you have to feel comfortable in yourself. You have to be able to feel safe enough with yourself to know that I deserve to speak up, safe enough to know that what I am thinking and what I am feeling matters, right? And so there's this nervous system component that is a piece of this. And so you have to have a regulated nervous system to be able to show up authentically and to show up fully in your life and in relationships in general. And that takes you being able to also be compassionate with yourself, right? Which I think is something that we just don't have a lot of in the society, right? I hear all the time the idea of like, well, they're a snowflake, right? They're too sensitive. They're too much. And the reality is that when we are talking about our feelings and talking about our thoughts or talking about something that comes up for us, a lot of the time it's seen as annoying by many different people, right? And that's very much like I feel like I've seen that on TV. So societal in a larger way as well, right? And this idea that we're a snowflake because we're talking about our feelings or we're talking about what's going on for us and it doesn't actually matter, right? That only reinforces the idea that you don't matter. And when we reinforce that idea, then that makes us lack confidence. It makes us doubt ourselves. It makes us lack self trust, right? And so to be fully expressed and authentic in who you are, you have to be able to completely trust yourself. You have to feel confident in who you are. And I think it's really interesting because I just spoke to someone else recently about this concept, and it was a male. And what he said to me was, well, what if they don't like me? What if I show up completely authentic in who I am and they don't like it? That's why I don't do it. It's kind of what he said. And I said to him, I was like, well, then that's information, right? If you show up authentically as yourself and you show up and you speak your truth and you show up as you are in your own unique way, which we're all unique in our own way, and someone doesn't like that about you, then wouldn't you rather know earlier on that that person doesn't like you and you're not aligned in a certain way rather than find that out way later? And I think that that's kind of where we were talking about dating and kind of what it's like to date nowadays. And he really spoke about like how he like keeps it real tight when he goes on dates and doesn't share too much. And a part of that is because you're afraid of being seen and you're afraid of being who you truly are because you're afraid that it will be rejected. And I think that a lot of people are actually afraid of being authentic and fully themselves because they're afraid that other people won't like it. And one way that I've thought about this that's been really helpful for me personally is that I'd rather find that out sooner rather than later. And that's not a bias on who I am. That doesn't say anything about me not being enough or my worthiness, right? That just tells me information about this dynamic and relationship that I'm actually just not aligned to this person. And that's okay, right? And the right people will love that about you, and the wrong people won't. And that's the thing about being authentic is that you're going to attract in the people that love that about you, that want more of that, right? That want that for themselves and are willing to do the work to show up in that way and want to feel safe enough to express themselves in that way. You'll bring all of those people in and you'll have beautiful community and people around you. But then you're also going to repel the people that are triggered by it, the people that don't like it, right? And that is just information that that dynamic or situation is just not right for you. I always think that that rejection is actually protection because me personally, I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who I can't feel safe around, who I feel like is judging me, who I feel like is like questioning everything that I'm doing or looking at me in a certain way. I don't want to be around people like that. That's not safe for me, right? And so I think the other piece of this is that a lot of the times we will close ourselves off to being authentic and fully who we are because we're afraid that we're going to be rejected. So then we make ourselves small and we attract in the wrong people, right? That actually keep us in this small little box that we've put ourselves in to maintain connection. And I got to say, I just don't think that that's worth it. I want to feel free. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel understood in my relationships. And if I'm trying to dumb myself down to fit into what I think is acceptable for this other person, then the reality is that I'm not truly being myself and I'm not truly being free. And this is a lot of why, in relationships, many people feel like they're walking on eggshells or they have to perform a certain way to maintain certain connections or relationships. Now, I do want to acknowledge that, there are certain relationships where maybe you do have to be a little bit more reserved, right? And maybe these are relationships that you want to maintain no matter what. And that could be like family members, work environments, coworkers, bosses, that kind of thing. But the people that are closest to me, the people that are in my inner circle that I communicate with on a regular basis are not people that I want to have to make myself small to be around. Because that means that I am then putting a ceiling on my freedom and my ability to be who I am. And so being fully expressed and authentic means that you have those two sides of the coin, right? You are going to attract in those aligned people. You are going to attract in those people that make you feel free and good. And you kind of are able to give that back and forth to each other. And you're going to repel the people who don't like that about you, who are not able to do that with themselves, and who are going to judge you for it, right? But when you are confident in who you are and you feel fully embodied in who you are, you notice that that doesn't really matter the people that kind of make distance from you. That's probably for the best. And that's part of what comes with being authentic. It's part of what comes with getting to that place. Because to be able to be fully yourself and authentic, you have to be able to trust yourself. You have to be able to love yourself. You have to be able to know that you matter, your feelings matter, your thoughts matter, all of those things matter, right? And for the people who are repelled by that, they are people that are still healing through and working through those things, right? So, lack of alignment. And I think also the other thing about being authentic where people really struggle is that you have to be okay with showing up imperfectly. And you have to be okay with not having everything correct or absolutely right. And in a society where you're either right or wrong, that can feel really difficult because being right is what matters, right, in our society. And we take tests to prove that. We also do that when it comes to like, people who are really into like the medical field or how they understand certain things. It's all about being right because being right means you're intelligent, right? And so I want to challenge that a little bit. And I want to acknowledge that what is right for one person may not be right for another person. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that one person is right and one person is wrong. It just means that we're different. And we're supposed to be. We're all uniquely ourselves, right? And the way that I think about that is kind of like we're aligned to certain people and we're not aligned to other people. The people that we agree that are right, we're probably more aligned to than the people that we think are wrong, we're less aligned to. And that's absolutely okay. Everybody has the right to think and feel and function in the way that they want to within their lives. And I think that a lot of people think, well, I want everybody to like me. Well, that's a red flag for me personally. If you want everybody to like you, then you're not being authentic. You're not being fully expressed. You're not being fully yourself because there's no way that everybody is going to like you if you are. If you want everybody to like you, that's because you're more worried about how people perceive you rather than how you feel, right? And so this comes back to kind of like how I live my life, where it's, would you rather have your life look good on paper and check all the boxes, or would you rather feel good? And that is a difference between how people choose to live their lives, right? I would rather feel good in my life. I would rather feel safe and comfortable and free and happy rather than check all the boxes and be right all the time. And so you got to decide what's more important to you. What do you actually want for yourself, right? And we all get a choice in that and we all get to decide that. But when it comes down to being okay with being imperfect, that's part of being able to show up authentically and fully. Because there is no way that you can show up authentically and fully and be worried about being right or wrong or being perfect. And I think that there's just so much belief around, well, if I'm not perfect, then what will people think, right? At the end of the day, what really matters is what you think about yourself. You are the only one that you spend your whole life with. And at the end of your life, you are the only one that you're with at the end moment, right? So I think it's really about, you being happy with yourself and letting go of what other people think or feel about that. That's true happiness. That's authenticity. And so when you are able to show up imperfectly, you're able to also kind of have this other perspective, which I think is so important, where you're able to have self compassion. And I'm sure you've probably heard this in the therapeutic field where they talk about being self compassionate and compassionate to yourself, right? And when you're able to show up imperfectly, you're able to acknowledge that you're growing, you're changing, and that's okay, right? And so let's say I'm in an interaction with someone and maybe I do say something wrong or I upset somebody. Luckily, we're human and we can always correct those things, right? And how you choose to speak to yourself in that moment is going to determine if you're able to move past that and let it go, or if you're going to hold on to that. Because many of us in those moments kind of beat the crap out of ourselves, right? Rather than just acknowledge, well, I'm human. I made a mistake. I get a chance to learn. And that's that, and put it down. But so many of us hold so tightly because we see ourselves as making that mistake as being something about ourselves. It means something about ourselves, which not really, not unless you decide it does, right? So being able to be fully expressed and authentic in who you are, it's a mindset. It's being in tune and grounded in your body. It's a nervous system safety. It's the ability for you to have the self-awareness as well, right? So there's all these different components that you need to be able to strengthen to be able to be authentic and fully yourself. And this is also something that I want to acknowledge is something you kind of practice over time and grow into it and get better at. It's not something that you just automatically become and then it's easy. You know what I mean? It's a constant kind of showing up and choosing to show up every single day authentically, right? And I think that that's where maybe people struggle a little bit too, is like this idea that, oh, I can just show up as this and I'm always going to be this. No, it's a choice that you make in every situation you walk into, and every new situation you walk into, you choose to show up in that way or not, right? And that is dependent on your choice in that moment. And if you're okay with maybe not being liked or being seen a certain way. But what I really want to hammer home here is that at the end of the day, what really matters is how you feel about yourself. It doesn't matter what other people think about you or feel about you. And someone who is truly authentic and embodied in that fully expressed self, that is the perspective and the mindset that they have, is the ability to let the rest of that external crap go and recognize that this is an internal game and it's all about me and how I feel about myself. And the big part of this too, and why I think it's just so important, is that when we are so worried about how somebody else is going to view me or if they're going to like me or whatever, right? We give our power away to those people. And being fully expressed and completely authentic in who you are is about you recognizing that you own your power. You don't have to give that away to anybody else. But as soon as you care about what someone else thinks about you and that you take that as information that there's something wrong with you or you're not good enough or you're not worthy, right? That's when you give your power away. And so it's really about you embodying your power, knowing that you don't have to give your power away. You get to decide how you choose to respond to certain things. You can't control everything that's happening around you, but what you do get to decide is what you do with it and how you respond to it. And if you let yourself make meaning about who you are based off of it, because I feel like that's the trap that a lot of people get stuck in, is they'll make meaning in a way that is detrimental to who they are and detrimental to their confidence, right? But to be fully expressed and authentic is to be truly, truly, truly free. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's something that you practice and you keep showing up as you keep growing and you keep changing. So I do have a program called Fully Expressed and Unavailable for Less, because once you become fully expressed, You become unavailable for anything less than what you believe that you deserve. And that includes relationships, that includes life decisions, that includes jobs, right? As you grow in your confidence and your self trust, you become unavailable for anything else that asks you to abandon who you are. And that is true freedom. And so I do have a program. It's a 3-month transformational coaching program that I do offer. You can go to crystalclearmystic.com and find out more information if you're interested. But just know we all deserve to get to this point of feeling free and feeling confident and truly embodying the trust in yourself. So I hope that everybody can start working towards this and wants this for themselves, because I know how it feels to be in this space for myself. And there's nothing better. I hope you guys have a great day.